Hey there, so this video I want to show you how to use Python's argparse because you want to go to bug bounty hunting, or if you want to do some automation, or if you want to make any Python files, you probably want to learn how to use argparse. Or you can use a simple OS module, but argparse is more cleaner, it's more like professional. Anyways, let's get to it. So the very first thing is you want to do is you want to import argparse. Arg means argument parsing. Argparse, and you're parsing the arguments. So basically, argparse allows you, like this. The name of this file is I think I named this file test.py. This is if you type in dir, this is the name of the file that we're currently at. And over here, what you want to do is you want to type in test, like Python 3 test.py, and then you want to put some arguments here, like space arguments, or you can put some flags like f. And basically, essentially, you want to grab that variable inside here, like f, like over here, you call it dog, and you want to be able to use use this inside the program. So let's get to it. Let me show you how we're gonna do this. First, here we have argparse, and I think one thing, this is a little bit outside of the scope, but I want to show you some good practices you use in Python. One good practice is to get the path home, because um, sometimes it's, well, for path home we're gonna need oops, let me just, what's this, import path home. Nope, don't need that. We're also gonna import the OS module, and this is a little outside the scope, but I think everybody should use this as best practice. And what I'm gonna do here is the os.path.realpath, and inside here you want to type in dash dash file dot dash dash here. Let's save that. And so what that does, I'm gonna print it out here. Print. First one, I'm gonna give a variable saying my path, comma, and then I'm just put the variable in there, path home. And essentially what this does, it just basically finds where in this computer, in the directory of this computer, that this specific file I'm working on is located. So if I run it, it shows it right here, my path, and it shows you bug bounty, auto, and then test.py. This is the test.py is our current file. So this gives you the full directory of where the file is, but you want just the directory. You don't want you just want the directory. You just want bug bounty. So you want to leave out this test.py. So essentially, what you do is you go bracket here, and then in front of the bracket you type in same thing, os.path dot dirname, and now instead you should see here my path, and it gives you just bug bounty. So this is a good practice to have over here, path home, because it's best to be working with absolute paths opposed to just partial paths. It's just safer that way, because it doesn't matter what, sometimes in different computers it does different things in different directories. So having an absolute path is sort of like it's sort of like fail safe in that sense. So I like to work with absolute paths, like the full directory. This is the full directory straight from the C colon. Okay, another good practice to have is doing this if name dash dash name equals dash main. I don't know if you guys heard this thing, and it should be double equals. This is another good practice to have. You should be doing this all the time. Essentially, if you're working with multiple files, so this is just good practice. Like, you don't have to, if you don't want to put anything down here, you don't have to put anything down here. You can just type in pass, and they just basically pass it. But it's just good practice to have this in all your Python programs, because essentially you want to ensure that only this file here runs. Because sometimes if you don't have this, and you have other stuff in here that attaches to other files, to other, those are going to run too. So you don't want, you only want this file to run. It's sort of a fail-safe. So this is good to have. If name equals main, this is good practice. Over here, this is good practice. You should always do this. And over here, this is also good practice to do this, to ensure that only this file runs. It doesn't really do it. You don't really need this, but it's a good practice to have it. Anyways, let's get to it. So to our main point, args parse. We want to instate make an object. So the first thing to do, I'm gonna call parser equals args parse, and I believe it is argument parser, and that's it. That's all you need to make the object. So the object is made, and what you want to do. Okay, before we go into the options, I'm just gonna now um, I want to call parser. Is it the args parse? Parse args. So now you're now you're activating this. Let's put this in the print file in the print. There we go. So all this really does is just activates it when you have this instigated. So if I go here and I type in here Python 3 dot, because this is the directory test.py, and dash h is always reserved for help. If I type that down and do dash h, you can see that everything is set up. So over here, let me just see if I can make this a little bigger. Yeah, so everything is set up here. It just tells you optional arguments, and yeah, so everything here is set up. Let me just make this a little small. And over here, you don't have to put anything. So over here in the object that we made, because you always need this. You may want to put a description. So you don't have to put a description, but I like to put a description, and it's called my my program. Put anything you want. It's not doesn't really matter, but it helps with the over here. If you here, over here, see my program right here, description. It shows up right here, my program. So you can write down here the purpose, or is it the purpose? I just type in purpose, the purpose of the program. And over here tells you here what the purpose of the program is. You can put this in color if you want. I'm not going to get into that, but you know it might be easier to put in color. So you have that, and you have this parser. So first thing you want to do is you want to be able to add arguments. So go over here. The only argument I have thus far, if you take a look at optional arguments, the only argument I have is just this the dash h. That's all that you have so far. But you want to add some more arguments. And so over here, I am going to do parser that, and if you put dot, it gives you all the options here. Here's add arguments. And what I like to do is I like to have this organized. So I have it here. Everything is separated by commas. So everything's separated by commas. So what I can do is I do that, and I put my arguments here. The very first thing you need for an is basically what flags do you want to use. So it's typically recommended to have a short flag and a long flag. So for the long flag, I'm going to use these single quotes for this. Long flag, I'm typing foo. That's one flag. And the other flag, let's type in, let's put a comma there. Everything is separated by comma. How about dash F? There we go. So we have two flags here. And so now over here, I believe you type in dash F. Oh, there's no, see, it's expecting one argument. So there's a bunch of options. So right now they want you to put an argument. So because it's expecting one argument. But you can get around that. And that's the whole point of this video, so you can get around that. My bad. So his namespace here equals foo, my bad. Basically, it's printing out, you have this print argument here, print parser. And it's basically printing out this over here, namespace. And let me put in the, okay, so over here, I'm gonna print them all out, Control V. So these are all your arguments here. I'm gonna talk them one by one. I'm just gonna comment out all of them thus far. So the very first one is the type. You don't have to put anything. It automatically assumes it's a string, but you can put a type if you want, and you can typically I just put string, or if you want to put a number beside it, like over here, this over here, my bad, that's a string. But if you want to put a number, you can put on int here. But I think typically I think it's just good. Either don't put it at all or just put string. So the next one is nargs. Now I recommend that you always use a question mark. Like the options are, you can use Star means 0 or more arguments. Plus means 1 or more arguments. And the question mark means 0 or 1 argument. I recommend you just use the question mark. And there's ways around putting multiple arguments, but the question mark, like there's something like you want to use defaults, and the question mark apparently is the only one that able to use default. So I would just say always use a question mark here. Okay, over here is dest, and basically you can call it anything you want. I'm calling it here file, and so basically over here, this is my bad, is basically the the um, the string that attaches the file. So file becomes a variable. So down over here, let me just save this. Down over here, parse args. If I type in dash, well, let's print it out thus far. Let's just see if it works. So over here, if you type in my bad and I run this, you see here namespace file, that is the variable, and it's my bad. So file is basically this here. And now if you want to just get just the my bad part, and that's it, as in the variable, over here you type in dot file. And now if I run this again, oops, my bad here, it runs it here, my bad, right there. Oh, I guess we don't need this. We don't need this statement anymore. I'm just gonna type in pass, and that's yeah. Anyhow, so that's what file does. It gives you like a variable name to put. That's what dest does. It sort of gives you a variable name file, and then you just put file at the end of this parser args to get the this argument right here. For instance, you don't have to use my bad. You can use any variable. Just so you know, just type in hello, and then maybe comma world, and then over here it says hello and comma world. If you put a space, then you get a mistake. You get like a problem because over here this nargs, it says you only accept 0 or 1 argument, right? So if you put a space here, then you get an error, right? So if you have multiple files, you want to do multiple files, what I suggest you do is you put a comma or put in quotations, a comma here, and now you have it as hello comma, and then you can parse the comma out into a list. Or you can type in, if you really insist on the space, you can actually put this in quotation. So if you put quotation marks, it looks like just one string. See hello world? It looks like one string, and then you can parse out the space here later on. Okay, so let's get back to it. Now you want to be able to do default. So like right now, if you want to be a default, like first is python.test.py. You want a default action for that. So right now there's nothing, no default for that. So what you can do is over here, like this one required. That one here is you can leave it a blank. You don't have to put that in, but I just put it in for whatever sake. I just put in false, so it's meaning that I don't have to put an argument. I can just leave it as test.py. And over here, default, I'll call it default1.txt. So basically, if I don't put any arguments, if I just put test.py, it will show namespace equals the default.text. So over here, test.py, if I do this, it just shows default. It basically gives a default result here. Let me just get rid of this file at the end of this here. There, and show you the names. Basically, the arguments here that sort of adopts the first argument. So let's do it again. See, namespace file equals default1. That's the whole point of required and default. Now, if you want to put like no flags here, let's say Python and then -f. Now you're gonna get an error because it wants you have so it says none, right? But let's say you want to just put just a default. Like right now it's none, but you want to put a default for that. So what you can do is here for action, but just so you know, I don't think this is in the documentation because I was looking through the documentation. I just found this by coincidence. So here is you type in store here, and then the next line is const. You type in const and you put down the default default string you want. So I'm gonna put our default 2. And now if I do this Python test and I just put -f, it gives me default 2. or I can do, so it gives me the option of putting dash f and no argument, or put an argument like hello, and now I have hello. So this sort of gives you default stuff. The help here is for the help menu. So I type in here path to file. This is supposed to be for the help, because people, if you look at your program, they want to know how to use it. So often they would type in dash h for the help, and they want to know exact. So here it says here path to file, which over here is the help path to file. And what does metavar here does? You see how the variable or foo and then f, it just says file. That's sort of default. You can actually change that on the help. So type in metavar and path to this thing. There we go. And now over here and the help, like metavar is related to help. So when you do the help again, it shows here path to this thing, path, and that's the only purpose of this metavar. And I believe that is all you need to know about parse args. Oh, like I said earlier, what you can do. Let's say you want to take multiple arguments. Here, let me just clear this. Let's clear this. And suppose that you want to do multiple arguments, say f or foo, doesn't matter, f, and you want to do, I don't know, hello, and then comma world. And if you did that, if you ran that, it says here hello world. So what you can do, and then you step over here, you just want to type in file. So now if I run this again, it should give you hello world, just that. And you can back, if you want, let's say you're doing multiple arguments, you can just parse it by doing dot split, and then inside here you want to split it at the comma here. And now if you run it, you have a list. Like it basically splits it up for you. Or you don't even, you can split it up, you can split up at space if you want. You can do hello and you put this in quotation marks. So it sees it as one argument, and you parse it. You can parse it at the like space. You can parse it like that. You can split it like that, or you can if you put no arguments, it automatically splits it up for you. So if you run this, oops, over here, you gotta run over here. Did I okay, yeah. Say hello. It just basically splits it up at the space. So that's why I recommend just using the question mark, and don't bother with the star or the plus sign. It's just better just to stick with what's simple. And that's the end of this video.